After many years of completely losing any identity the franchise once had, Nintendo's surprising us with a remake of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, now regarded as one of the best games of the 6th generation, was not on my bingo card. While this generation's Origami King was a step in the right direction, it was still yet another divisive entry that was clearly not what longtime fans truly wanted from the series. What they wanted was a true successor to this particular entry. And so, 20 years and 4 games since its original release, it's easy to see this full remake of The Thousand Year Door as a water tester. And full disclosure, despite my frequent skepticism of Nintendo's consumer-facing business practices, the original GameCube version of this title is tied with Final Fantasy IX as my favorite game of all time. It wasn't perfect, and we'll certainly get to the flaws that version had, but it was an important and formative game in my childhood that taught me that even massive RPGs can have a boatload of charm and humor to carry their narrative along. And also, it made me cry no matter how many times I replayed it. Knowing the game and its problems front to back, in order to really maximize the potential of a beloved classic, parts of this game need to be updated to modernize it properly, and one pretty major instance of localization censorship needs to be fixed. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and this game came out in 2004, so let's start from the top. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is a sequel to the 2064 title simply Paper Mario, which took the platforming plumber and his world and translated it into a strategic turn-based RPG. The aesthetic was utterly different from any other Mario game on the console, adopting a 2.5D style inspired by Parappa the Rapper, and while it began life as a sequel to the recently remade Super Mario RPG, it developed a totally different and much more humorous personality. The Thousand Year Door is both a sequel and somewhat of a stealth remake of the N64 game, with a ton of parallels to the original that are significantly refined and mastered and placed into a brand new setting. Rogueport and its surroundings are unique to this game, and that gave the creators a lot of freedom in depicting whatever kind of locales they wanted, wholly divorced from either the Mushroom Kingdom of the previous game or the version of that setting in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which had released the year before. The player is instantly introduced to Rogueport through a prologue wherein Princess Peach, on vacation in this strange hive of scum and villainy, comes across a box being sold by a street vendor. She opens it, the game cuts to black, and we cut to Mario being invited to join her on her vacation via letter, in which she also encloses the map that was inside the box. Upon arriving at Rogueport, he finds no princess, but is instead attacked by a strangely garbed man and a squadron of minuscule grunts. With the help of the similarly put upon Goombella, he escapes, meets her former teacher, and the three of them discover that the map is the key to opening the titular door, and will point the way to the 7 crystal stars that will be used in its unsealing. Each of the stars is in a different area in Rogueport's surroundings, and the diversity of its locales is easily one of the best parts of the game, with the caveat in the original that there would be a lot of backtracking involved at various points. Not only does the game have Metroidvania-esque powers that allow you to reach new areas, but one section nearing the end of the game is infamous for sending the player all over the explored map in confusing directions. The game's final chapters are worth the hassle, but it was always a heavily dreaded speed bump for any replay. Thankfully, this remake has updated the game with many new quality of life features, both large and small. The most noticeable are a more convenient on-demand hint system, wherein a single button press will nudge the player in the direction of the next event, and a fast travel shortcut system that will allow you to much more easily revisit areas, significantly cutting down on the pain of backtracking for extra goodies and missing generals. Exploration itself is also easier now with the help of the partner ring, replacing the limited D-pad shortcut from the GameCube release and allowing you to quickly switch between Mario's allies in order to take advantage of their abilities, and telegraphs that make it much easier to tell where those powers will land once used. For example, Chapter 1's new party member Koops can be boomeranged out to grab distant objects or hit faraway switches, or he can be held in place to trip switches at a delay. A ring on the ground will now appear when Koops is being held to make it more obvious what he'll hit when released from his delay. I also can't stress enough how good the new musical orchestrations are. The entire soundtrack feels much grander than the quirky arrangements of the original, and given how I could probably hum almost any tune from this game from memory, it speaks highly of the new sound that I did not take up the option of switching back to the original score, though the option is thankfully available. Beneath all of the well thought out changes is one of the most well constructed turn-based RPGs of all time, and probably the single most well told and emotional story in any Mario title. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is absolutely bursting at the seams with charm and character, memorable allies, insane humor that hasn't aged a day in 2 decades, and dramatic beats unmatched by any other game in the series. If you've never played the GameCube original, you've probably spent the last 20 years or so hearing the series' vocal fanbase glorify the Thousand-Year Door to no end, and this remake has reminded me that it really is just that worthy. Every nitpick I've ever had with the older release has been addressed, and along with that came a whole bunch of cool additions I never even knew I wanted. Given that we've now gotten 2 Mario RPG remakes in the last year, I can only hope that's a sign that Nintendo will finally take this series in the direction fans have always wanted, because the only thing I could ask for now is to finally get a sequel. Noisy Pixel is giving Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door for Nintendo Switch a 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all of our future content.
Noisy Pixel.